Welcome to our finalToon tutorial working with line styles. In this video we will discuss how we can work with finalToon and define line styles and how everything is integrated in 3D Studio Max. But before we do so, this tutorial is meant as a start to finish tutorial. So the first thing I'll do is I'll search for a free model so that you guys can follow along. So I go to TurboSquid, search for a free house model. And let's see if we find something. And here we go. Let's take this house again. You might remember in another tutorial we also offer for free. We already chose this object. Let's do that again. So let's get the model. Let's bring in this model into 3D Studio Max. When we have the model in 3D Studio Max, we can start to analyze it and check it out a little bit so that it works for us. But this model is available in a 3D Studio Max file, so we can assume it's kind of okay to use it. However, what I always do is use a Reset XForm. And in that model, it's really necessary, so don't forget that. Add a Reset XForm and collapse it again. That will fix the internal scaling of the object because the scaling was off. Somehow this object was bigger than it is now in 3D Studio Max. Besides the geometry, in the scene we have a skylight, a standard skylight, and an omnilight with shadows. So pretty standard 3D Studio Max scene. Let's do a test render and see how the scene looks like. And this scene was set up for the scanline render, which is perfect for our finalToon tutorial here, because we want to do a non-photorealistic rendering later on, and the scanliner is perfect for this purpose. So, as I said, looks pretty nice and cool. And now we want to explore a little bit how we can turn this into a non-photorealistic rendering with finalToon and work on line styles. First thing I'll bring up is the material editor and we'll assign a standard material. And just to be sure that everything still works as we want it to, we'll do another test render and we can see nice AO effects, nice shadows, soft shadows and contact shadows and all this kind of stuff, which is really pretty amazing for a scanline renderer. And let's just move that out of the way. But we don't want to go photorealistic, so we don't want these shadows, we don't want these AO-like effects, so I'll delete the skylight and the omnilight. So we end up without any lights at all. Now I want to show you something that's just for your information. I'll open up the effects, the render effects rollout. And when we now change our material to finalToon, you will see it automatically added finalToon render effect in your 3D Studio Max menu. So keep that in mind. Whenever you create for the first time a finalToon material and the render effect is not in the effects, it will be automatically added there. So what that means is you can just press the render button and everything is there. We have the default lines, the default outlines already set up, ready to go. It's really that simple and that easy. And by the way, you can also add it if you're not using the finalToon material, add it manually anytime to your render effects in 3D Studio Max. Right now we have shadow and specular as well. We don't need that actually, so I can turn it off. That gives us a little bit more speed and room to work. So I just keep the body and the lines right now. And we want to concentrate in this tutorial anyway on the outlines or line rendering. So let me bring up now finalToon. We will control all the line effects with finalToon in the render effects. And there's this interactive button in 3D Studio Max. You might have forgotten that this actually exists. finalToon is a render effect. So it's after the fact added to your rendering. And this gives us a huge advantage because, as you can see here, we can actually change in real time our outlines or our line rendering. And we can do pretty drastic things. We can go up to 5, 6, 7, 8. You can make your lines as thick as you want and it will render in seconds or milliseconds. Try to do that with an outline shader or any other renderer. It won't work. finalToon is ultra fast. You get beautiful, accurate lines where you can specify all your parameters here interactively. So for another interactive effect, let me just collapse that so we can see it's updating. When I turn on hidden folds, it did something, but I don't see a change in the rendering. So I have to update the scene to get my hidden lines. And sometimes you have to remember, sometimes you need to press the update button because finalToon needs the extra data from the renderer. And then it caches the data and then it's there forever. And then we can, for example, adjust our dotted lines, our hidden lines to a dotted line style. And we have several other line styles we can just adjust in real time. We will go into more detail later in this video about the line styles and features we have there. But for now, let me just play around with the basic line styles and explore a little bit of the basic line styles. Let me just turn off the hidden folds. They disappeared. And also I want to remove the visible creases and the visible intersections maybe. Let's do that. So I want to explore now the line style called only silhouette. So I just want to create the silhouette only, and this is one that needs an update of the scene because we need to have more information from the renderer. We'll do that, and now we get the silhouette. Do you see what I see on the right hand corner? Something is wrong there. There is a gap. It's not really working. Let me just increase if this is a redraw issue. No, it's not a redraw issue. Can you see it? We have a gap there. How did that happen? That's very strange. So finalToon is that bad? Do you want to tell me that? Or what's going on? No, finalToon is never that bad. finalToon is pretty accurate actually. What's the problem? That's your mesh. We got it, remember, we got it from the internet. It was a free model. So we can assume that not a lot of time was spent on cleaning up and making this a clean, nice model. So eventually the owner who created it just did it once from a distance to put it somewhere and it works. So, but that's bothering me. I don't want that. I want my silhouette line to work as it should. So let's explore what's going on with this mesh. I need to get to the source of it. So let me just select that. Okay, it's an editable poly. I already see something strange going on. Let's have a look up here. So I saw something. I guess you also saw it. Yeah. Do you see that? What crap is that? And again, there's a lot of lines and stuff going on. Triangles going criss and cross, and I see another overlap. Do you see that? There's overlaps everywhere. So how did he create, or how did she create this kind of model? So that's really strange. Let me check with an STL check, which by the way is developed by us and part of 3D Studio Max. And we can see it's 372 errors. Let's see what kind of error this is. I already have a suspected error type. So it's not a multiple edge, it's not a spike, it's also not a double edge, it's an open edge. We have 372 open edges, and that's really terrible. It not only doesn't work with finalToon, it wouldn't work with any GI renderer. Open edges means they're slight leaks, stuff get through, rays are not intersecting properly. It's all kinds of shit. So what you need to do is you need to clean up your mesh. Make sure you always have a watertight mesh, regardless what you do. In this case, we just could find it or catch it because finalToon is so accurate and it showed us instantly that something is not working because it couldn't draw the line, the silhouette line. And we can here see a terrible way of modeling, or I don't know how this happened. So that's collapsed surfaces and stuff. And also here, already here. Oh, this is all terrible. Man, how should a true line renderer, how should a line renderer create lines there? It will create the lines, but they will be folded into itself and follow crazy paths. That's no way. We can't use that model as is, at least for our silhouette lines. So we need to fix that. We need to fix this stuff. Hopefully the fix isn't that bad. We just have to weld some vertices, merge some things together, delete some faces. You know the drill. If you're a 3D Studio Max user working with CAD models or data from AutoCAD, you know the drill. It never works. You always wish, why didn't you build it in 3D Studio Max in the first place? And yes, there's very often it's much faster to build it right in 3D Studio Max than in these crappy CAD solutions out there. Especially when you plan to render and make nice pictures or images with it. So I'm going to fix that right now and see how we can get this to a clean model. So, and here we go. I was freaking out, I can tell you. That Max tools to fix that, vertices not welding together and all this crap. Anyhow, let's just forget what happened. Start fresh. I fixed it. You can see it in my file name in the upper left corner. So now the mesh is fixed. Now we can restart again. And where was I? Okay, here we are. Silhouette. Now the silhouette works. So we always assume we get a proper mesh or object. And as you can see here, it's so beautiful how fast finalToon is, how accurate it is. We can play around interactively, really interactively with our line styles. And that's the whole beauty of finalToon. You can adjust your line styles, and the line styles can be created in such a great way. Let me just update that so that we can be sure we get all the information finalToon needs, and then we have all our line styles here. So back to the line styles. The beauty of it is we can do each adjustment per line style or type. And what I want to explore right now is the intersections. So usually I would expect, or I want to have a line there, and intersections usually work with two different objects. But this house is one object. So there is no intersection lines because this is just one mesh. It doesn't intersect with anything else except self-intersections. Let me just turn that on. And the same issue here, we have to update our rendering to get the extra information of the self-intersections. So now we did the self-intersection and we get the beautiful accurate lines. Everything self-intersecting in this object is now creating the proper lines. And also it reveals how crappy this thing was built. So things just stuck into each other. But for now we don't care. We just want to concentrate and keep on working on our line styles. Okay, as I mentioned before, we have control over each individual line type, be it the fold edges, the crease edges, intersection edges, or even the sub-components of our line style we have full control over. So if we wanted to have, for example, the hidden folds something different, we can do that. But let's first start with the visible folds. So we can adjust the visible folds. Here we're just going to change the pattern of our visible folds. Now we have these dashed lines and we can adjust the size of it. And here's the beauty, it's interactive. So you can adjust your style exactly as you want it. You see what's going on. Imagine you had another renderer with a shader or anything. You always have to wait until it's done to see the adjustments. And here you can create your lines in real time. And as I mentioned before, even the subtype of the same style or line type, you can adjust. We can give the visible folds or invisible folds, different line styles. So it's a very powerful thing we can do here. And it's not only the how to draw the line, it's obviously you can adjust the color of the lines. So let's adjust the color a little bit and you see it instantly updated. So now we change the line color. We can change the line color to anything we want. We have the brightness, opacity, all these kind of things can be adjusted in real time. So getting back to the line styles, we can adjust even more. We can go and adjust not only the basic stuff like the color, brightness, if the line should be connected or things like that, or dotted, or the scale of the dotted lines or dashed lines. We can also adjust advanced parameters like, for example, what happens when lines are in shadow. So we can use all the rendering effects and parameters. We can change our line style in the shadow regions. We can make them bright, for example, when there's a black shadow, or make them thicker or thinner. We also have beautiful effects in finalToon that give you real creative freedom how to create your lines. For example, we can have a noise on the thickness of the lines. You see that here. Let me just increase that a little bit so we can overdo it. So that looks like a dripping pen or something like that with random thickness. And we can adjust the frequency, how often that happens along a line. And we can also adjust where it happens, the phase. And you can see in real time it updates where these lumps or bigger areas or thickness appears or happens. We can do the same for opacity, so we can make the lines more transparent in the same areas we have there. So that gives a nice natural look or hand-drawn look. And we can also noise lines, so we can really give the lines any kind of noise type or strength to make it more like a scribble look. And this is really, as I mentioned, per line type, so you can create really nice effects. And also here, in instant feedback on your controls or updates you do here, which is really a powerful feature to find your actual line style or style of lines you want to use throughout your project. So once you found it, because there's a lot of parameters, I understand that, but once you found it, you can just put it in your library and that's your line style. You can name it, that's my line style, company line style, or project number 1, project number 2, or whatever you want. You can store this and reuse these line styles. And I'm going to show you how to reuse line styles and how easy it is and how fast it is to get really creative and build upon a database of line styles. We also have 3D effects, which are very interesting. For 3D effects, you basically have a near and far range. Finding this near and far range is based on your camera. Right now we do actually not have a camera, so we just have to guess and play around a little bit. Let me just play around so that I find my near range and my cutoff distance, for example. So right now we want to have in the near range really thick lines, and you can see in the near range towards in the front of the camera we have thick lines. Towards the back of the building the lines get thinner and finer. So we can adjust that even more so they actually get so thin that they fade out to the distance. And that can give really interesting artistic highlights, or you can use that to express some really interesting effects in finalToon. And the same goes obviously also for the opacity. So we can make, based on the distance, let me just type in the same value, we can increase the opacity. So that will give us a kind of watercolor effect. And then we have a bunch of 2D effects we can add to the line styles. The 2D effects are just screen space effects, so we can have extended lines. Right now that model, as we know, is crappy, so we don't have really clean lines there. But at the end you can have these extended lines, so these little crosses when lines go across each other. And then we have other effects that are 2D based, the concave effects that give us a more pen-like effect, or slash pen, where you have an angle, you paint your line. Pressure based, thickness, opacity pressure, and all this kind of stuff. So really powerful setup. And as I said, for each line style, you have the full control of your line style. And here comes what I was talking about, saving your own database or effects. Then you can access them anytime, use them as a template, and go from there and just load them in. And you can make sure that all your team uses the same line style. So you just set up the line styles, tell everyone to use this line style for this project, and you can be sure everyone has the same line style and it will behave the same way. And we already ship with a good database of line styles. Keep in mind, some line styles you have to update to get the extra features. So this is more for architectural visualizations type of things. That's a fake blueprint kind of line style, if you like that. So there's a lot of already line styles you can load in, just explore and work on it. And here we have an interesting line style. So I really hope you get the idea how powerful finalToon is, and I hope to see you soon on our other videos. Thanks for watching.